Hi, everyone. I know it's 1 o'clock. We're just going to give people another minute or two to continue filing in, and we'll get started in just a minute. Just going to give everybody 1 more minute, and then we'll get started. Okay. Welcome, everyone, to Empion's webinar on supercharging recruitment with instant onboarding. Some brief housekeeping before we get started. Hi, my name is Morris Isaacson. I'm the EVP of Marketing and Sales, and I'll be the co-host for the webinar. Before anyone asks, yes, the slides and the recording will be sent afterwards, so don't worry. This is a live presentation, so if you have any questions, please feel free to submit them. We're going to do our best to respond to those at the end of the presentation. If for any reason you'd like to get in touch with us afterwards, please feel free to email hello@empion.com, hello@empion.com. We know you took time out of your day to join us, and we want to honor your investment of time by making sure we provide you with valuable information. So without any further ado, we'll get started. First, since there's a lot of new folks on the call, I'd like to introduce you to Empion. Founded by Israel Kraus about 20 years ago, Empion was formerly known as ADS Payroll, and we specialized in payroll predominantly in the healthcare industry. A little more than 5 years ago, we expanded beyond payroll into software solutions for HR, time management, benefits and ACA, and much more, allowing us to offer what we call a full human capital management suite. Together with these new products came a rebrand to Empion. As a business, what Empion really stands for are the fundamental points you see on your screen. Empathy drives us because we want to empower people. To do that, we need to deeply understand our customers, their problems, and their goals. Integrity is critical because we see ourselves not just as solution providers, but really as partners. That means no cutting corners, it means delivering on our promises, and it means operating with transparency that fosters trust. And lastly, but perhaps most importantly, human-centered innovation. What that means is creating solutions that our customers want and that their employees want to use. It means understanding that we're in the people business. So if a critical feature is 8 clicks away instead of 1, we don't pat ourselves on the back and say, hey, we checked the box. It's only a success for us when we get that wow, which I know Katie has heard a number of times, that reaction of, oh, you guys really get me. Speaking of Katie, let's do some introductions. A little background on her. Katie Shields is our resident product expert at Empion. She began her career in sales and marketing in 2011 and moved into the HCM and payroll industry in 2019. That's where she discovered her passion for helping companies achieve their business goals by streamlining their HCM and payroll processes, utilizing the latest technologies. Katie excels at helping clients reach new heights of efficiency, increase productivity, cut costs, and improve employee engagement. To all of that, I will just add personally that Katie really embodies those core tenets that I had mentioned just a few minutes ago. Okay, let's talk about the problem. If you work in HR, especially in healthcare, you live this problem every day. Finding good people, hiring good people, and retaining good people is perhaps the greatest challenge in HR today. The statistics you see there on the screen is one of many I've seen. Others, like 44% of new hires quitting within the first 6 months, are the types of things that keep HR leaders up at night. At Empion, we don't believe that there's this single magic bullet that solves the problem, but there are ways to break the problem down and attack specific areas. One of the areas that software can make a big impact in is also one that's very often overlooked. Of course, I'm talking about onboarding. I'll steal an example from my colleague, Peretz Rappaport, who was talking with a healthcare agency, and they were complaining about how they lose so many good candidates during the onboarding process. Peretz asked them what their onboarding process looked like, and if I remember correctly, there was close to 400 total pages of documents involved. I don't mean files, I mean actual stacks of paper. That's what's causing the problem. Let's talk about a solution. When our product engineers began to tackle onboarding, we spoke with a number of recruiters and HR professionals to understand what the perfect system would look like. What we heard was a broad sense of frictionless, Make it easy, like so easy that it feels instantaneous. The goal here is really to exceed the new hire's expectations because that can transform the entire way they look at your organization. Practically speaking, the way to do that comes through in bigger things like signing of documents online. It also comes through in smaller things like making sure personal information like their address only has to be added once and can carry through the rest of the process. And perhaps most critically, it comes through being able to show that new hire the path that she or he needs to take so that everything is clear. The formula to take away here is that automation plus exceeding expectations equals improved employee retention. That means if you're in HR and you haven't done an audit of your onboarding process in a couple of months or maybe a couple of years, it's time to think about dusting off the cobwebs to see how you can make the process more efficient and what role technology automation can be playing in making sure that it is secure and efficient. For Empion, when we wanted to create an industry-leading onboarding tool, it means automating the right tasks. It means setting up the software to catch errors before they happen, and it means giving our users the tools they need to make sure they stay in compliance. Now I'd like to turn things over to Katie to show you some of the best practices.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Morris, for that introduction. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with everyone. And Morris, if you can confirm, you can see it?
Yes.
Perfect. Awesome. So today what we're going to do is look at the onboarding dashboard, what it looks like to initiate onboarding. We'll look at the employee experience for onboarding, and then what it looks like as an admin to kind of finish up the onboarding, and what it looks like once you approve them as an active employee within the system. And then if we have time, we'll get into some of the setup for onboarding. So first off, this is, of course, the main dashboard when you go into Empion, and you would simply click on the People tab and onboarding over here to get to your onboarding dash. So on this dashboard, I can see at any point which employees I have waiting for my review and which employees are still in progress. If I need any more detail, I can hover over this little info button and it'll tell me specifically what parts of the process they've completed so far for onboarding. If I feel like they have not moved on far along enough, if I feel like they haven't moved on far enough, I could resend the invitation. And if ever need be, I can cancel onboarding, but the system will also send out automated reminders to employees if they haven't completed it in a timely manner. Now, to onboard a new hire, you would simply click on this button up here. And you'll see at the top, I have a long list of onboarding templates to choose from. So as a customer, you can create as many templates as you would like. We see a lot of folks create specific templates for different types of roles because they may need to sign off on different types of documents or fill out different fields. Or if you happen to have locations across multiple states, then it's a good idea to separate these templates based off of state as well in case you have any state-specific policies. So ultimately, you would just select the template. You would fill out very basic information here. And actually, we do have an integrated applicant tracking system. So if you're utilizing that, you can simply pull in the information automatically. Otherwise, it's just very basic information that you have to select from before being able to move forward and save and invite the employee. So you can see here, it can take less than a minute just to initiate that onboarding invitation. Now, jumping over to the new employee, once you send that invitation, they would receive this welcome email. You'll see here that there is a message that was created. This would be part of the template that you create. So it can be customized based, again, on the specific state or role. So you can include different contact information, letting them know who to reach out to, or if you have any just specific instructions that you need them to follow, it would be good to include that in this message. And as I mentioned previously, if I get this invitation and maybe it's been a few days and I haven't started, I will get this reminder email letting me know that you are waiting on me to complete this packet. Otherwise, once I register my account and log in, this is what it looks like for the employee to onboard. So they'll see their list of steps here. If need be, we do use Google Translator, so it can be translated, of course, to English, Spanish, French, and Russian. And then, of course, you'll also see that message that you saw in the email listed at the very beginning of the onboarding process for them as well. So they have two places to refer back to for that contact information or those instructions. So let's go ahead and get started. So first things first, is going to ask the employee to create their personal profile. Now, you'll see on here as I'm filling this out that there are red asterisks next to some of these fields, meaning those fields are required. If I attempt to move forward in the process without filling that out, it's not going to let me do so, which is incredibly important for our admins who want to ensure they have that fully completed onboarding packet and aren't chasing down their new hires to get additional information. Moving along, we get to our contact information. So we can start here by filling out our street address. And as we begin to fill it out, it will automatically pull up the remainder of the address for us. Here too, we can add our phone number. And when you're creating these onboarding templates, like you'll see some more basic fields here, but there are additional fields that you can leverage, custom fields that you can leverage if there's, special information you might need, like their uniform size, emergency contacts. You can, say, for example, require them to include at least 2. Again, you can customize it to your liking. So once we receive that information, it will ask them to set up their direct deposit. So as Morris mentioned earlier, we want an all-in-one system where all of this information is going to flow through. We collect this during the onboarding. It will eventually make its way to payroll for us to pay them. If you do not offer paper check, this option can be turned off for you. Otherwise, they can have the option to select from both. And when they go in to add their direct deposit, we include some instructions for them. Here, they can find their routing and account number if need be. Ultimately, we want to reduce that potential for error. If they start to fill out their routing number and it happens to be invalid, it will alert them. Because again, the last thing that we want is to reach that first payday for them and not have the correct information and we miss paying them, right? Which can also be an issue if you're utilizing multiple systems and you're having to input the information in multiple places. We also recommend having them upload a copy of a voided check. So this way, when it comes to the admin part of the process, we can confirm that that information aligns. Next up, we get to our I-9. And again, these legal documents tend to be very intimidating for new hires to fill out. So we want to keep it as simple as possible. So first things first, they just answer a simple question and then select which list they want to upload their document from. Once that list is selected and they click on it, it's going to give them a list of documents that are actually acceptable so they know what can be provided. And then here they can upload a document. Now, if I didn't mention this earlier, again, this can be done via desktop and mobile. They can use it either way. So if you have employees who do not have laptops at home, do not have desktops, that's not a problem. They can use their mobile device. And in doing so, when it asks for uploads, they can simply snap a picture from their phone. Moving along to the tax withholdings, again, we want it to be simple for them because everyone has questions when it comes time to filling this information out. So they can just simply select their filing status. That's our only mandatory field. And then if they need to add anything additional and have questions, we do provide links to the federal W-4, the IRS tax estimator, as well as your state tax form to help clarify things if need be. Next up, we have our profile picture. So this is optional for employees. It is not a mandatory task to complete, but it is recommended. What we see a lot of companies do is they will include instructions in that welcome email asking them, encouraging them to include that profile picture because at the end of the day, we're wanting to improve our employee experience. So if we have this picture beforehand, some groups you can export it from Empion and they will include it in a welcome email to send out to their entire workforce so that on that first day, everyone knows who to look for, who to welcome, and then that employee really feels like they're part of the team from day one. And then we get to our orientation. And this technically the feature that I'm showing you now, we refer to as paths. Paths can be utilized for your new hires. They can also be utilized for existing employees at any point during their tenure. And what it's helpful for is when you have a series of tasks that you need your employees to complete. So first things first, we have a welcome video. So it's always a great idea to include a welcome video for your new hires, just letting them know more about your company, about the culture to expect. It's just going to get them that much more excited to come in on their first day. Moving along, you can also have them sign off on company documents. So here we have the employee handbook. And you can see here it's auto filling out some of the information like her name and today's date because that information was already filled out earlier. You can also include custom text. So if there's simply a policy that needs to be included, maybe you don't have it in document form, but you want them to acknowledge it, you can include that, require acknowledgement, and then you would always have that time-stamped acknowledgement in their employee profile in case for some reason you ever need to refer back to it. Similar to the welcome video, I have another video here, but this is requiring acknowledgement as well. So you'll see you have the option to choose whether or not you require it or not. But if it's something more related to compliance or to certain policies, it's a good idea to require that acknowledgement to ensure that they watched it in full. And then here we can also require uploads. So this is giving my employee instructions to access the WOTC website to fill out that information. And then we're asking them to upload proof to show that they did in fact complete it. So anytime you have an external website that you may need them to reference to complete something, it's a good idea to include that link and then just ask them for an upload for proof. Here too, we need a lot of records from our employees, such as COVID vaccination cards. You may need certain licenses, copies of certain training certifications. So anything that you may need to have on file for that employee, you can ask them to upload during that path section when they are a new hire, and again, throughout their employment if it needs to happen again. Now, once they're done, they can click continue, but I do want to make note that if at any point during this process, say for example, they can't find their COVID vaccination card, they need to take a break from the onboarding to go look for it, they can always log out, they can leave their computer, they can come log back in, and it's always going to pick up exactly where they left off. So they're not going to have to restart at any point, which I imagine would be frustrating, and we don't want that. And then here it takes us to our final documents. So we have our I-9, and again, you'll see that the system automatically filled out all the information that Mary filled out earlier in the process, like her address, her social security number. All she's needing to do is come in here and sign. Same thing with the W-4 to keep it simple. She's not having to reinsert any of that information. It's already pre-populated. We just need her signature at this point. So the common trend you're seeing through here is the less work we can ask from our new hires, the better. We want to make this as least intimidating as we possibly can. We don't want to hand them that stack of paperwork. We want to say here, it's only going to take about 10 minutes for you to complete this. And once they are done, they can leave a note. So they could say looking forward, for example, and submit. Once they submit, the person who is designated as the individual to complete that onboarding process from the admin perspective, that admin would receive an email letting us know Mary's onboarding packet is ready for my review. I can also jump back into my system on my dashboard. And I'll see here, I now have an additional onboarding submission. So if we click into here, I can jump into Mary's. I can see when the invitation was sent, confirm that she registered her account. I can view her employee input. So all of this personal information, address, contact information, everything she included, once I click approve, is going to flow to her employee profile, which I will show you. I mentioned as well with the direct deposit, it's a good idea to have that voided check. So here I'm able to look at the account number, look at the voided check, make sure everything aligns so we're not running into any hiccups on that first payday for Mary. Then at that point, I can jump over to the admin input. So, we want to be quick in initiating onboarding. It's important to get them started on the packet as quickly as possible to ensure they start, that we keep them, that they don't go looking elsewhere. So we save this for after the fact, where we can come in and add any additional cost centers, any additional job information. During the paths, I had mentioned we picked up their COVID vaccination card, their PPD. So on admin input, I can come in and add any additional medical records, any additional trainings, everything that needs to fall within the employee profile, I can fill out at this point. And jumping back over to paths, I want to point out as well, we can of course see these uploads, any documents that they signed off on. But what happens if an employee says they've completed the WOTC application, but really they just took a picture of a black screen and uploaded that? So what we can do is we can come back in here if they failed to do what they were asked and reopen the task for them. And they would get that alert to let them know, hey, you did this incorrectly, please go back in and complete the task. Once everything looks good on their end, we can complete from our side the I-9. So we do technically have a copy of their passport, but of course, when they come in on their first day, we're going to want to inspect that, come in here to fill out the remaining portion of the I-9 from the employer side. You can see all those fields are ready to be filled out. We can view a copy of their W-4 if need be. If we initiated a background check earlier on in the process, so we do have some clients leveraging ATS with the integrated background check provider. At this point, they can upload a copy of that background check to live within the employee profile. Or if you happen to use something externally, you have that option to require certain admin uploads at the end of that onboarding process, so you can provide any additional paperwork that may be necessary. Here we can view any comments that the employee left. But if everything looks good at this point, we can go ahead and we can click approve. And once we click approve, that employee lives within the system. They do receive an email that looks like this, letting them know, hey, your onboarding submission was approved, and it will go ahead and give them some access to employee self-service. So they can start clicking around, getting used to using Empion, seeing everything that you give them permission to do within the system. So again, it's just going to make them that much more excited to come in on their first day. All right, and then if we jump here into the employee profile, I had mentioned that when you complete onboarding, everything is going to flow over. So here's an employee who I had complete the onboarding process where all their personal contact information, I didn't require any medical records from him, but ultimately all the information that he filled out during onboarding and then all the information that I filled out during onboarding pushed into his employee profile. You'll see here as well with the document section. We can see here his direct deposit, his W-4. Anything that he completed during that path that we created is going to fall here under this general section. We have his I-9 and any additional new hire paperwork here. Now, if we ever need to, I just want to point out, because this question does come up a lot, you can also export documents from the system. So if ever needed for an audit, we could come in here, select all, or just select the specific documents that we need to export, and we can download them directly out of the system. All right. So ultimately, that is the main part of the onboarding piece. I do want to quickly jump into digitizing documents, because when I talk to clients about onboarding, one of the things that they're most concerned about is, I have all of these packets. How long is it going to take me to digitize my documents, right? And I just want to kind of show you how simple it is. So if we jump to company, company is where all of your settings will live. So where you can go to create onboarding templates, create the paths that you saw during the onboarding process. And here's where we could come in to digitize our documents. So you'll see first here, I have a number of folders to choose from. I definitely recommend, again, if you have different documents that are going to need to be acknowledged and filled out based off of a specific role, you probably want to have a folder for each specific role. Or if you have locations under the same EIN that are in different states, it's a good idea to just organize those documents accordingly. So when you go to build out your template, you're just simply clicking and adding the documents out of that packet. So we can come up here to upload. select our file. And then from here, you can choose which folder do I want to add this to. If it does require a link, say they need to go somewhere externally to watch a video and then maybe fill out a document with answers, you can include that external URL with instructions for them on what to do. And if it doesn't require signature or any form fill, you could simply save it. But if it needs to be digitized, you'll find that button right up here. So when digitizing, you have the option between both auto-populated fields as well as input fields. So auto-populated is going to pull any information that lives within the employee profile of the employee that you're sending this document to, right? So you can pull in their last name, for example, first name. Let's say we need their date of birth. Let's say we need their social security number. And that's all we need for the auto-populated fields. And then maybe we need some input fields. So input is going to be anything where we need them to choose something, to fill something out, right? So maybe we need them to insert some text. We need them to put a number. We need them to answer a question from a drop-down, in which case it's going to ask me to input the answers that I want them to be able to choose from. Perhaps we have some radio buttons for them to select. We can add additional if need be. And then lastly, typically we're going to require that signature. So it's very quick to digitize, but what happens if we don't just need the employee to fill things out, we also need input from the employer. So let's say in this example, we need the employer to fill out some text. We also need them to sign off on this document as well. Then we can simply come in here, assign this particular field to the employer. We could come down here and assign the signature to the employer. And then just like in DocuSign, we can come in here and set that signing order. Who do we want to fill it out first, the employer or the employee? If we think everything looks good, we can click preview and ensure we got first name, last name, date of birth, social. We have our text fields to be filled out, our number they can come in and enter, the drop down that they can choose from, the radio button, and the signature. We know everything looks good. So we can hit done, we can save our document, and we are good to go. And I do want to make note too, that these documents can also be copied to another company. So if you do have multiple FEINs, but you have similar policies for each or similar, similar policies, similar documents, you just need them to fill out. Instead of having to digitize it under each individual EIN, you can simply copy that to a different company and put it into their correct folder. And so again, we're saving you time and preventing you from having to duplicate those efforts. So that is kind of the very beginning phases of creating the onboarding template is creating or digitizing those documents for yourself. I would say that's the part, again, that most intimidates people, but you see how simple and how quick it can be done. And I would love to show you more, but with this all being said, I'm going to pass it back over to Morris.
Thank you so much, Katie.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we'll take a minute or two to answer any questions that people have. There's a few over here in the chat that I'll pass along, but as Katie mentioned, there's really a lot more under the hood here. If you're interested in seeing a full-on demo, please feel free to reach out to us, sales@mpion.com. So the first question I've got for you, Katie, is does the system send out reminders to new hires if they haven't completed onboarding?
Yes. So that email that I showed you earlier on in the process, it will absolutely send out those reminders to them.
Fantastic, thank you. In terms of integrations, do you integrate with an LMS learning management software?
We do. We actually recently started integrating with Show2Me. We have a whole blog post about it on our website. If you follow us on LinkedIn, I'm sure you've heard us talk about it there. But great company, and we're really excited to integrate with them.
Fantastic, thank you. Do just one more because I know we're really at time. Am I able to provide contact information in the onboarding workflow in case the employee has any questions?
Yes, absolutely. So you could, as I mentioned previously, you could include it in the email that you initially send out, and then that would also populate whenever they first pull up onboarding. At any point during onboarding, I had mentioned they're not able to move forward if they don't fill out the required fields, but they can always move backwards if they need to. So they can click back on that and view that contact information at any point. And then if need be in the paths, each task has instructions you can include. So if you think that they may have questions on that particular task they need to complete, you could also put them there.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Okay. So if anyone has additional questions, please feel free to reach out to us, sales@mpion.com. I hope what we shared today really helps give you an understanding of what modern onboarding solutions can look like, and how it can really transform your company's onboarding process to make sure that perfect candidate has a perfect start. Please keep an eye out for a post-webinar survey. We'd really appreciate your feedback. And again, if you'd like to learn more about Mpion's onboarding solution or any of our other suite of products, please feel free to message us, sales@mpion.com. And yes, slides and the recording will be sent afterwards. That ends our webinar. Thank you so much for joining us today.